few triathletes race with a low cadence. A lot of triathletes train with a low cadence, but what are the benefits and should we adopt this? Well, today we're going to be doing a personal experiment looking at high and low cadence and the effects of how the physiology changes depending on the speed at which we're moving our legs. When you search low cadence cycling, it throws up loads of hits on how to train with a low cadence cycling, but very little about slow revolution pedaling for racing. And that's not to say that you can't be competitive or successful like that, but if you look, say, towards the pro peloton, the trend has certainly moved to a higher cadence. So if we're not encouraging you to ride at a low cadence in a race, then why are we even bothering to give this any airtime? Well, like we mentioned earlier, it has significant training benefits, and it's also just good to be able to adapt your cadence when it comes to training. In actual fact, now's a good time to bring in James. Hi,
Hey.
James. You just happen to be hanging there. That's brilliant. Now, James, I know you've spoken about on the channel before how you've used to use quite a lot of low cadence training, and I don't know if you know the reasons why your coach prescribed that, and also what benefits did you feel from using it?
Yeah, I actually had a naturally low cadence, and my coach didn't do anything to correct that on purpose. We actually did quite a lot of low cadence work, for the main reason being that it's great for your strength work and strength endurance, without really taxing your aerobic system. It doesn't wear out your aerobic system, which is really tired from all the swimming and biking and running you've done. And it worked pretty well.
Well, some interesting points there from James. And if Daniela Reef, one of the strongest, if not the strongest cyclist in triathlon, uses that in her training, then who are we to judge?
We'll take a little look into the science behind dropping your cadence and the effects of doing it a little later on. But now I think it's time we hop on our bikes and do a little bit of riding and actually see the effects of low cadence work.
So we've got this 2K section of road that is ever so slightly undulating, and the idea is we're both going to ride it at our predicted 70.3 power, just in whatever cadence feels natural, really trying not to overthink it. And the only number we're going to have displayed on our bike computer will be our power. Well, it's funny, isn't it, how comfortable 70.3 power can feel when you're just doing 2K.
Yeah, it took actually probably not long enough to even find my natural cadence at that point, but fairly comfortable. I mean, that is our natural cadence, so
Yeah.
it shouldn't be too hard, right?
No, well, exactly. Well, now we're going to make it feel a little bit more uncomfortable, maybe more comfortable for you because we're going low.
65 is pretty low though. Let's see what we can do. I actually found that quite a bit easier to control. I hit 67 instead of 65, but I'll take that as a cadence goal.
Yeah, I mean, I was too low, and I was like, just too much to think about, trying to maintain the power, maintain the cadence. I mean,
And my power was a little bit all over
yeah,
the place.
we'll discuss it all in detail later, but we've still got one more to go.
Yeah.
High cadence, which I'm hoping I'm going to find more comfortable.
I'm not going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, well.
95 cadence. Come on.
Go spin those legs.
Leave that for Chris Froome. Right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Harder than I thought. Whew. Okay. It's time to regroup with James, compare our numbers. I think we've earned a coffee. Right, we've just about got our breath back. It's time to take a look at the numbers. James, do you want to hit us off with yours?
Well, mine were interesting. I managed to hold, I was aiming for about 315 watts and I managed to almost be exact on at my natural cadence at 313, which you would expect because I can judge it better. I was quite low with the low cadence and quite high with the high cadence. Interestingly, my heart rate went higher, significantly higher with the high cadence, like max was 6 beats higher and average was 6 beats higher, and quite a lot lower with low cadence. So same maximum as my natural cadence, but a lower average for that period because I was in the lower cadence. But yeah, it was a lot harder to judge the pace and the effort at my unnatural cadence.
So if your heart rate was higher, did it correlate to your perceived effort, or?
Yeah, it did actually. That last one, I was puffing and panting a lot more. And actually, towards the end of just a 2K effort, my legs were burning a lot more than they were with the other two, which is interesting because if I had to do that for 90 kilometers, I would really struggle.
Yeah, I mean, you probably would have got a bit exhausted, wouldn't you? I mean, I was just found the whole thing, didn't manage to get heart rate data, but I just found the concentrating on trying to match your cadence to your power was really difficult. My average cadence was lower than I expected. That was actually 77, but I think maybe I was riding a slightly lower power than I should have aimed for, which would correlate with that. And then the low cadence, I went, maybe because of that, everything's a bit low. I was as low as 60 was my average, which, you know, I was like, and I don't think of myself as a low cadence rider. You know, I'm quite sort of comfortable. On Zwift is when, you know, I've done most of my riding indoors, and that's all around 85. And then as for the high, I think I averaged 92, so I was just all a bit low. But yeah, again, like you, I was definitely puffing.
It's just hard to judge.
A lot more.
Okay, well, from our testing, I think the jury is definitely still out. However, let's share some of the actual science on why you should use low cadence or high cadence or vary your cadence in training so that you can decide when you should do it and if you should do it.
Riding at a low cadence naturally feels harder on the legs, and well, in a sense it is, as you are required to put out more force through your muscles on each pedal stroke. Think of it as lifting in the gym. It's like you're doing really heavy squats, yet you're doing fewer of those reps, and it is going to make you stronger as it's causing your body to recruit more muscle fibers to produce that force. And if getting stronger is your sole goal, well, actually, you'll get far quicker and bigger results if you go and lift in the gym. So you might now be asking, well, why do low cadence work?
Regularly riding at your preferred cadence, be that a low cadence or a high cadence, will make you efficient at that cadence. But you could be missing out on potential gains. You see, the specificity of training dictates that only those muscles that are repeatedly contracted will adapt to the training. So if you always use the same cadence, you're only training those muscles. However, if you repeatedly change your cadence, higher or lower, you recruit additional fibers, making them available later on at whatever cadence you choose to ride.
I mean, you could argue that if you're working at a high enough intensity, you're going to be recruiting those extra muscle fibers anyway. I mean, high power requires high force, irrelevant of your cadence. But the question is, how long can you actually sustain that level of intensity? Well, probably not as long as you can manage to keep a low cadence when you're working at a lower effort level.
To summarize, using low cadence in your cycling is a good way to build your fatigue resistance, your strength endurance, without overly taxing your cardiovascular system.
Well, with that in mind, James, do you want to share one of your favourite low cadence sessions?
Well, there's all kinds of things you can do to train your low cadence, and training like a turbo session or just keeping a lower cadence for any ride. But I'd say my favourite one would probably be to do low cadence hill reps, where you ride up a hill for 3 to 4 minutes, turn around, spin down, and then ride up a hill again at a really low cadence of like 55 to 60. That really gets it into your legs.
Yeah, I bet. Well, maybe leave that one for another day.
Yeah. I think we'll leave that for another day. Note that we're talking here about training in a low cadence and changing your cadence, not necessarily changing your cadence for racing. That is another discussion entirely.
Yeah, well, go away, experiment with your cadence, and if you have enjoyed watching this and our little, maybe slightly inconclusive experiment, do give us a like, and if you're not yet subscribing to the channel, well, click on that globe.